So Nintendo seems to have just quietly confirmed what I would consider to be one of the biggest features and pieces of news so far for Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. And you might remember in prior videos recently on the channel, we have been talking about the idea of enhanced backwards compatibility for your Switch 1 library of games due to some leaked conversation appearing online from sources like Nash Weedle, specifically naming two different games that would have upgrades available for them on the Switch 2, such as Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and he mentioned that one would be a paid upgrade, and No Man's Sky would be receiving some kind of free upgrade. Essentially, these games are set to look and run better on the more powerful Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. Well, interestingly, at yesterday's Nintendo Direct presentation, we had a portion of that event that outlined how Nintendo plans to handle digital games and sharing them with other consoles. And while the system's a little bit complicated and also not, it did actually have a document that went live that has some fine print that suggests that Nintendo is already geared up and ready and expecting Switch 2 versions of Switch 1 games. So we have to unpack that. That's the major story. Then I want to briefly touch on the fact that we now have confirmation straight from Nintendo's own key art that the C button is the C button, because I know some people were questioning that when they removed it from the first look trailer, but we already saw leaked pictures of the Joy-Con that had that C engraving. Now Nintendo's on the same page with that. We know that that C button's there, and I want to briefly touch back on what the most likely function for that button is. So we'll get on the same page with all of this info. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick it off by hopping over to VGC, where they do have the write-up with exactly what's been spotted within this digital game sharing segment, or web page rather, outlining the support that was quietly revealed for Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo's small print suggests some Switch games will get enhanced Switch 2 editions. An info page on virtual game cards refers to both Switch 2 games and Switch 2 edition games. Today, Nintendo announced a new virtual game card system which allows players to turn digital games in their Switch library to virtual cartridges, which can then be transferred to another system or rented out to family members. However, the small print on an information page about the virtual game card system appeared to suggest that some Switch games may be getting upgrades for the more powerful Switch 2. Compatible systems must be linked to a Nintendo account to use virtual game cards. The smaller print reads, as spotted by Wario64, Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games and Nintendo Switch 2 edition games can be loaded on a Nintendo Switch 2 system. The fact that the small print differentiates between Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games and Nintendo Switch 2 edition games appears to imply that the latter refers to games that have both Switch and Switch 2 editions. And if you question that alone, there is some further evidence coming to us from Necro Felipe, where he's just backing this up with sources that he's heard confirm this to him. He says, now that Nintendo has confirmed it, I can comment on it after a conversation with sources. Games will get improved patch on the next Switch. Today, Nintendo made the term Nintendo Switch 2 Edition public for this type of software on its virtual game cards page. So for me, this absolutely spells it out and confirms it. Nintendo did it quietly, interestingly enough, and we'll probably learn more about it at the April 2nd Direct, but I believe this is direct proof that Nintendo is indeed planning to support better versions of Switch 1 software on Switch 2, and they are branding that a Switch 2 Edition of a Switch game. So, for instance, we've talked about at length, there has been a long-standing rumor for Breath of the Wild with a 4K resolution and 60 FPS frame rate and no load times, essentially was the claim. That's what was shown off as a tech demonstration on targeted spec PC hardware back at Gamescom 2023, according to very reliable sources at that time. And then we saw Midori, who leaked numerous internal code names and projects ahead of time from Nintendo, all of their stuff checked out. They leaked the code name U-King-O, which U-King was the code name for Breath of the Wild, and we had that -O at the end, which is interesting because later on we learned that Ounce was the code name for Nintendo Switch 2, meaning there is an internal code name that was being worked on at Nintendo HQ, and it was an upgraded version of Breath of the Wild for Nintendo Switch 2. Now we see this terminology straight from Nintendo that says Nintendo Switch 2 Edition of a Nintendo Switch 1 game, that is a very big deal, and I think it's kind of confirming these larger upgrades. But the big question is how widespread is this upgraded or enhanced backwards compatibility, and does it cost to get upgraded to this newer tier of the game? Because this is where I can see Nintendo picking a handful of titles, and instead of the Nintendo Selects days when their prices of their first party games from the last generation just get heavily discounted and you're picking up like $20-$30 banger titles first party Nintendo, we might not see that happen this time around. We might see the Switch 1 editions get sold at like $40 and $50 price points, but we might actually see Nintendo try to re-soft launch some of these games, whether it just be digital or maybe some of them even get a boxed Switch 2 edition for a full $70 price. And Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom each have a 4K version sold at $70 standalone, and that could actually be a reality we are living in the Switch 2. And then if you have the game, they take that Sony path and give you a $10 upgrade to allow you to get the Switch 2 edition, or they bake it in to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack as a member benefit where you get these Switch 2 editions if you were subscribed to that service. There's all types of different levers Nintendo could pull. Obviously, in a perfect world, it would just be a performance patch that's included because you own the new hardware, you already own the game, and they want to inspire people to go pick up more copies of that game and add it to their library because it runs better now in Switch 2. It's a possibility that they do it like that, but I'm more in the mindset that this is probably going to cost some money to get to Switch 2 editions. But you think of games that had performance problems. I'm not expecting Scarlet and Violet to get a Switch 2 edition, even though they probably sorely need it. Maybe Pokemon Legends ZA. I would argue that Metroid Prime 4 footage that we saw the other day, while I don't think it was running on a Switch 2, it looks like it could have been. And honestly, I wonder if there are more advanced lighting effects and different things that we didn't see in that trailer that might be supported on a Switch 2 edition of that game. And some of these cross-generational titles that have come out towards the end of the Switch's life cycle may indeed see a Switch 2 edition at or after launch of the new console. This is definitely on the table now, and I wonder if there are also going to be smaller enhancements that do just come free. Like, I'm thinking, for example, we saw that internal game code for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door back when it released on the Switch, and there's 4K resolution that's not being utilized, that's in the game code and was revealed due to data mining. Could that be enabled, and could we enjoy a 60 FPS version of that game? Because obviously it runs at 30 on the Switch, and actually on the GameCube it ran on its original release at 60. That was a big hot topic and point of contention when the game came out. Do we get a Switch 2 version of Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door and we have the best of both worlds now? This is a possibility. Xenoblade Chronicles X, there was a hidden 60 FPS mode that's just turned off in the game's files that was found once again via data mining. This is all the kind of stuff that lines up, and now we're seeing the terminology Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Switch 1 games. Like, this is, the puzzle pieces are coming together, and this is a very exciting prospect for me because with the depth of quality that is in the Nintendo Switch 1 library, we knew it was backwards compatible, but are you doing something to really take advantage of that new horsepower you have with the next generation console? And it seems like the answer is yes. So I'm personally very excited for this. The next piece of news I want to dive into has to do with that C button that mysteriously, we saw it leaked. We saw literal pictures of the Joy-Con of the Switch 2 console before Nintendo ever revealed the first look trailer. Then whenever we got that first look trailer, that C button that we had already seen on the leaked Joy-Cons and everything else lined up perfectly accurately, the C button was not there in that trailer. Well, you might remember that just yesterday at the Direct also, Nintendo revealed the Nintendo Today app, which is their mobile app version of communicating news to their fans directly. I'm sure they're still going to do the X posts as well as YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. They'll still have a social media presence, but this is a direct-to-consumer way with a Nintendo account to quickly find out Nintendo news and information. Well, they actually have an image of the Nintendo Switch 2 on that news app, and wouldn't you know it, if you zoom in close enough, you can clearly see in Nintendo's own marketing material, they have added the C button to the Nintendo Switch 2 console. Now, they probably know we're just getting so close to the April 2nd Direct at this point that they're ready to explain that feature, that they weren't sweating putting this out ahead of time, but the C button is back, and it's connect, community, command center, whatever, maybe it ties into a word, maybe it doesn't, but I am personally of the mindset, I'm not thinking it's cast. I really don't think we're going to get dual screen gameplay at the Switch, on the Switch 2 at this point, unfortunately. If you were a fan of that technology, I would like to have it as an option in certain scenarios, but it's not a deal breaker for me. I do think that this ties into those proximity voice chat features that Nintendo patented that we were talking about. I think Nintendo's finally getting to the point where they realize that gamers in 2025 and beyond like to be able to talk to each other easily on their gaming platform when they're playing games together. And I think this is going to be that command center type of interface where you hit the button, it pops up, you have your friends list, you see who's online, you can hop into a direct chat with them, you can create a party and invite multiple friends, and you can participate via voice or create text thread chats with each other. All of that stuff I think is going to be there. I'm hoping they just go to usernames instead of friend codes to really streamline their online interface and things, but that is cool to see Nintendo not hide that button anymore, and to put to bed any of the rumors and speculation out there that some people were thinking online that the C button wasn't the C button. Well, we know it is, and it's on Nintendo's official images now. So for whatever reason, they didn't want people speculating upon that button too much, I guess, at the first look trailer, so they chose to remove it, but now it's back and we have the confirmation of that. But let me know what you think about both the different stories we talked about and touched on today. Are you like me and just actually pumped and excited for something like enhanced backwards compatibility and Switch 2 editions of Switch 1 games? Do you think that this is something that could turn into too much of a cash grab from Nintendo, and are you concerned about that? Would it be worth it for you to pay something like $10 to upgrade your version of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom to get them at 4K 60 with basically no load times? Or does it just depend on the amount of work that went into these performance patches and how noticeable the difference is? And do you think there's a chance Nintendo includes this for free, or maybe as a Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack member benefit? How do you think they'll handle it? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, ring your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.